Peace, family. I hope you are having a good day, a good morning. Um, I wanted to share a video that I'm watching, but then I feel like I have to maybe do a video to lay a foundation. This is a channel by Brother Sabal Nabaya. He's talking about Olam, and the title says Reminders and Remnant, the Old World. So I'll share this video later on, but I feel like I have to do a quick video to remind us or everyone about where do we come from. I mean, before we were born in flesh, before we were in Eden, the people taken in the Garden of Eden, we realized that Adam and Eve are brought into the garden from outside the garden, from the land of Eden. Before that land, where were we? And before that other land, where were we? So I'll call them the four stations, just to, so we come from four different places and we transition just like a child is born and exists during the pregnancy, then is born little child living on the milk of the mother, and then they graduate, they become school going age, and they reach puberty, they become teenagers, they become they reach adulthood, they become mothers and fathers, and they get old, they die. So just that process. So I'm going to talk about elder, I'm going to talk about Olam, Eden, and then the earth. And we're on the earth, which is the last station, if you allow me to call it the station. And then also we are going to go to talk about, in order to understand those four stations and the relevance to us, is we have to know the, let's say, this is Melchizedek 3 verse 75, 76. So if you look at 76, it will say the first spirit of life, and then 77 it will say the second spirit of life, 78 will say the third spirit of life. So it's like it's a building block. So just like I compared to a child being born, gradually moving through the stages of growth, we also underwent the same process in our spirit. So we're being added on, we're gaining awareness and gradually becoming something more spiritually. So we'll be looking at this. So this is what the two factors that I'll concentrate on. I had hoped before I started initiated the lesson, I had hoped to make it short, but I don't know if it'll be short, because I have to address our slumber. Why are we sleeping? It's because of the argument that took place during the process of our creation, before we created. And I think I have to include that argument before I come to the four stations, so that we understand why do we perceive where we come from the way we do, in a wrong way or in an erroneous way. So now we'll look at, if you look at the four steps of the four steps of agency, we said is say, feel, do, and be. So say is the originator because it's the word of the Father. So I'll take it here. Melchizedek 2 verse 96, and all the assembled wondered what it could mean, and they all watched for Anokese to speak. So they are watching for Father loving kindness to speak. And I can see that the assembly is greatly moved with much anticipation. And Anoke said, our Father spoke, and he said, so say means he said, the wedding. We are all gathered here to counsel together before creation proceeds to its conclusion. For I have yet to create the spirit of life for the animals and men. And because mankind is the object of creation, we must proceed with careful consideration, and everything must be in order as we proceed, because our success depends on making the right decisions. In the council of elder, it was determined that I would create all the spirit of children of men, and on the morrow, the day of their creation is upon us. So he's saying there was a council of elder, and it was determined that the Father will create the spirit of man, and their creation will be coming soon or tomorrow. And he's posed a question, and my question is now, where shall we create all the spirit of men? And it is very important where they are created for redemption to succeed. So he's asking his children where to create his other children. So if you read, you realize that you learn that the angels or the spirit of presence, the angels of presence of the Father are part of him. They exist with him eternally. Just like he created his own son from himself, just part of himself, an extension part of himself. So the Son and the Father are one. So everything, the Father, the Son, even before he is created, is part of the Father, and the angels of presence of the Father are eternal. So that's why he could even counsel with them here. So when we go on, or if you read the book of Remembrance of Melchizedek, you realize that the 24 elders are eternal. They are always there. Okay, let me go on. And the vast multitude, 97, of the watchers of heaven stood before Anokese to witness his question. And I can sense that for all but the council of the Ekodisha, it seemed normal that Anokese would have a question in need of an answer. So everyone was okay to have Father ask a question that he needed an answer from someone. I mean, like, how could a God, the Almighty, the most powerful, need an answer from us? So that's why they are watching. And the watchers of the council of Abraham it seemed normal to some, but to some not. But Anokese should have a question in need of an answer. And this is because they had only experienced the age of eternity. And it was hard for them to conceive that there was such a place as elder, or what it may be like there. And this was upon them because of the influence of the age of eternity. So the age of eternity, they say it's a defined eternity. So it's like when God is at rest, there's no creation. When he wants to create, he moves towards the edge of eternity. And that's where they named that place to be elder. So, and being at elder, if there is this bird, I don't know what its name in English. In Setswana we say skoro. This bird, when a female lays its eggs, when it now has to sit on the eggs to warm them so that they could hatch. I don't know I think whether during this process or when they hatch, it removes all its feathers so that it looks like its children, and it can't fly, it can't look for food, it just sits there. And its feathers and the feathers of its young will be growing anew. So when father is at the edge of eternity, it's like that bird. It's like he reset his knowing and knowledge and know-how. So he become like a child among his children. So they converse, and he's genuinely looking for an answer, and he needs their contributions. Okay, I think I've did that. Why they are wondering why, but why would he be asking us? He knows everything. That's the reason. That's the scenario, and I hope I will come across that somewhere, at least to clarify it. 98. And it came to pass that I beheld with my eyes that Moza is Messiah, and Enoch said the Father confer together. So the Son and the Father are talking together, and it was not after the manner that I had seen in the council of elder. So just in the note towards the end there, salvation emerged from the council of elder. So they talked about the council of elder before we read here, and the redemption emerged from the council of heaven. So those are two different councils, and I think there are 4 councils in total. But I won't talk about those councils much. For this time, Moses stood determined in his task to bring righteousness, which results in redemption. And at the council of elder, heaven had not yet been created. And now, in this council of heaven, decisions must be made, and things must be determined concerning where to all the spirits of men, and thereby put the first degree of creation in all full effect of an anticipation of establishment of the second degree of creation. So he's talking about first decree of creation, second decree of creation. I think before we started here, we saw in bold the second decree of creation. I think I'll address them another time. Let me just try to. So the second decree of creation is that all doings of creation and all the affairs of salvation must be done by men through the power of the intervention of their agency. So that's the second decree of creation. Hopefully I'll bump onto the first decree of creation. I don't want to avoid to go back and forth to search for it. So now the question is where to create all the spirits of men, and thereby put the first decree of creation into full effect and out of anticipation of the establishment of the second decree of creation. So much that Enoch said the Father can remain our Father in the face of sin, and where to create the children of men bore strong upon just how that could be possible. So you see, following this law, the first decree of creation, because there are laws, and the second one, and catering for the Father to remain in the face with his children in the face of sin. So this is where the Father split himself to be the Redeemer in the lower heavens or in the heavens. So this is where he made himself to be the Son. And what power should be established was the question at hand. For the fatherhood of Enoch said must be firmly established in the midst of element, to be immovable in the face of sin, so that it could forever remain to be felt unhindered in all creation. And I can see that Moses came to this council with a pure determination. Moses is the Messiah. So I like to use the word Messiah, the name Messiah. Messiah means the anointed one. And especially before he's born in flesh, because then we start to call him the Christ or know him as the Christ. Okay, 100. And I can see that Mozart, the Messiah, came to this council with a pure determination, and it should be by the power of righteousness, and not only that, but now Mozart stood as the spokesman of all mankind to see to it that all those who would repent could in the end be redeemed and be able to dwell with Anoka said an elder for eternity. So now in the process of determining where to create them and how should they remain, how the father should be with his children. So the Messiah, Mozart, is already thinking of, okay, they are going to sin, so how are we going to redeem them? How will they be gathered back to Father? Because to be with Father, they need to be sinless. And in this way, our lovely Redeemer has absolute authority to bless us and renew us in the process of our becoming, like the Prince of Righteousness. So I think in the, Malachi, I think that's what they call him, call him the Prince of Righteousness. So it's the Messiah. And all the concourse of heaven observed quietly with praise in their hearts. And all were waiting for Anukase to speak. And finally he addressed the assembly and he said, so they were waiting for the Father to speak. The question before us is, where shall I create all the spirit of man? And what is the manner that we shall give the element in creation form? So where am I going to create this, my children? And also what form? How should they look like? For it is certain that all the spirit of life that I create must have a body in which to live in the elements of the earth together with me. And the spirit and the body together are the soul. So what is a soul? The spirit plus body combined is what makes a soul. And this way, all the watchers of heaven are living souls together with men, because they have the spirit and the body. So a tree has a spirit and a body. So it has a soul. A mountain has a spirit and a body, has a soul. And a spirit and an element inseparably connected in righteousness and brings a fullness of the gift of life. And it must be that no amount of sin can remove my presence from element. So a spirit and an element inseparably connected in righteousness brings a fullness of gift of life. So a spirit and element cannot be removed from by the presence of sin. And my lovely children live in their bodies in the midst of the element of my being. So the element is more like things like, let's go to chemistry, or say hydrogen, oxygen, let me say sodium. Those are, say, okay, they are molecules, I think, because they exist in duality. But because this is a spirit body, spirit element, this is duality, so it's more like that. Because those ones are bipolar. So those are elements, so sodium, so the very core of us, the Father is in it, and even sin cannot separate your core element from your spirit, because that's where Father lives, in you. And my children and my lovely children live in their bodies in the presence of the element of my being, which can be found in all of you here. And this is so that both their spirit and body can be nourished to flourish in creation during all their pathway in their becoming, and all such things spring forth from my storehouse of loving kindness.